there. Having a quick recall of square and cube roots is going to stand you in good stead in the upper primary years. You'll be coming across them often when learning more complex skills, so if you don't know them, it'll slow your thinking down and you'll end up making unnecessary errors in your working. It's important to understand that square rooting is the opposite of squaring numbers, and cube rooting is the opposite of cubing numbers. So if you've done the lessons on square and cube numbers and you've got a really good understanding and knowledge of them, this skill will be simple to grasp. Let's dive in.
If you've never seen this symbol before, don't confuse it with the box we use for dividing numbers. They look similar, but this is a square root symbol, and we know this because it has this little tail. Now this question is asking, what is the square root of 16? And this one is asking, what is the square root of 64? Now finding the square root of 16 means that we're working out which number multiplied by itself gives you 16. So if we look down here, in your mind, this is what you would be thinking. What times what gives you 16? And remember, these two numbers, it's the same number. What number multiplied by itself gives you 16? If you know your tables and your square numbers, you'll know that 4 times 4 gives you 16. So if we go back up here to the question, the square root of 16, your answer is 4. For this next one, the square root of 64, you're trying to find out what number multiplied by itself gives you 64. So in your mind, you'll be thinking, what times what equals 64? We know that 8 times 8 is 64. So if we go back up here to put our answer, the square root of 64 is 8. Now this same principle applies for cube rooting. Let's go and take a look at that. You can see that the cube root symbol is similar to the square root symbol, but this one has a little 3, which shows that we are looking for the cube root. So this question is asking, what is the cube root of 8? And this one is asking, what is the cube root of 64? Now finding the cube root means you want to work out which number multiplied by itself and by itself again gives you this answer. So for the cube root of 8, we will be thinking in our minds, what times what equals 8. And remember, these three have to be the same number because it's the same number multiplied by itself and by itself again. Now, if you know your cube numbers, you'll know that 2 times 2 times 2 gives you 8. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So if you come back up here, the cube root of 8, you'll simply write 2. Because that's the number that you have to multiply by itself and by itself again to give you 8. Let's look at this next one, the cube root of 64. This time we want to know what number multiplied by itself and by itself again gives you 64. So we say what times what gives us 64. And this time the answer will be 4. Because we know 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 again gives us 64. So if we go to the top here, our answer is 4. Okay, now that you know how to work out the square roots and cube roots, it's time for you to try some yourself. As you can see, there are 3 square root sums and 3 cube root sums here for you to try. Remember, this I think column is what you'll eventually end up doing in your head. But for now, while the skill is new, it's a really good idea to write this part down to help your brain to form the neural pathway for this skill. Okay, what you're going to do now, you're going to pause this video, work out your answers, and then come back to the video to see if they are correct. Let's check your answers.
Practice the skill enough so that you've memorized these sets of square and cube roots. You'll be so glad you did. Once you've got to that stage of memorization, move on to the next skill that you'd like to work through. I'll see you in that lesson. This lesson comes from the Tables Training That Packs a Punch series. The full series with practice exercises and bonuses is available from aligerous.online. Click the link in the description below.